Afternoon, welcome. Thank you.
Before moving to our next session, I would like to introduce our second speaker, that is Miss Rashmi Arya. Currently, ma'am is a principal scientist in CSIR unit for research and development of information product, Pune. She is having 18 plus years of experience in the area of patent informatics. She is a recipient of SIS Young Information Scientist Award for the 2010 year, which is conferred by Society of Information Science for working in the area of PAT informatics. She has completed Bachelor's of Science and Masters of Science in Microbiology from University of Mumbai. Her additional qualifications are WIPO CEIPI Advanced Training Course on Technology Transfer, Licensing and Development in 2014, Intellectual Property Specialization Program from WIPO and University of South Africa in 2013. She has also completed PG Diploma in Patent Law from Nalsar University of Law at Hyderabad with A++ grade. Ms. Arya has achieved WIPO scholarship for participation in advanced training course on technology transfer, licensing and development conducted at CEIPI, Strasbourg in 2014. WIPO scholarship for WIPO UNISA specialization program in IP 2011 to 13. CSIR Senior Research Fellowship IPR in 2005, CSIR UGC NET for lectureship in 2002, and postgraduate scholarship for the course of microbiology at University of Mumbai 2000 to 2001. She has also delivered an invited lecture on PAT informatics and types of researches at IIPS Mumbai. Welcome, ma'am.
Yeah,
So it's honor to
thank you.
have you, ma'am. With
Yeah,
this,
thank you so much.
with this brief introduction, I kindly request you to deliver a talk on topic patent filing procedure and importance in research. Over to you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you so much for the kind introduction. You're able to hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Okay, I'll just share my screen and start my presentation. And a very good afternoon to everyone present here. I would also like to thank Dr. Atul Phatak for, giving me this opportunity to, share my experience and a bit of knowledge on patent information, patent data, and I'll throw you some light on how you can, use patents for your research work. As all of you are basically professors, you would also be working in research, and you would be guiding your PhD students. You would be having writing proposals for grants. So I think this lecture would be useful in terms of getting on insights on how you can use patent information for all your daily research activities. So I'll just share my screen, and let me know when you can see my slides.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah. Uh, it will stop sharing your screen. Is it okay?
Okay, ma'am. No issue.
Yeah. You can see my slide now?
Yes, ma'am. Your screen is visible.
Right. Okay. Okay. So today what I have been asked to speak about is on patent filing procedure and importance in research. So how I'm going to have my session today is, first I'll just give you some basic idea about IP and patents, so that if anybody who's not aware of it will get an idea of how patents are filed. And then we'll go about the procedure for patent filing. And then this patent information which is there in the free domain, which people can use for the research work, for project development, product development, as well as for commercialization. I'll try to touch upon that. It's actually a very huge topic. I have tried to make it brief to fit it in this hour, 1 hour. But if anybody has any doubts, please feel free to ask me. Okay. So all of you may be aware what basically IPR is. It is intellectual property rights, wherein you get protection for any creation of the mind, and that not necessarily will be related to science or technology, but you will get protection for any literary work that you do, drawings, architectural designs, any artistic work, symbols, names, and images. So all these which come out from the creation of the mind can be protected. Basically, it has to be different, novel, and it should not be known anywhere or copied from anybody else. So there are different types of IPR. Just to touch upon, patents, trademarks, copyright, trade secrets, geographical indications, utility models, which is not prevalent in all countries, but some countries do give protection with utility models, industry designs, integrated circuit layouts, and domain names. Now, generally, in all the countries, you would have some protection, but the legislation in each country is different. So whenever you want to seek protection in different countries, you need to understand what the law in that country is, and accordingly you should go ahead with protection of your creations. So in some countries, utility models, as I said, is not present. In some countries, it allows you protection for utility models. Patents, trademarks, copyright is common in all the countries. Trade secrets is also a form of protection. So you, depending on what your creation is, you can decide which form of protection you would want to go for. Generally, any one type would not suffice. So if you have a product developed, it has some technology in it, the technology is new, you have a new invention, you can go for a patent. But then you should also, as a think on how you want to market it. So for marketing, it would need to have a name, if whether you can go in and protect it as a trademark so that people recognize the product with that particular name. And all of you would surely be aware of different trademarks which are already present. Copyrights are, all our books get copyright protection. Trade secrets are certain formulations or certain technologies which the companies or organizations would not want to disclose it to anybody, because if it comes as a patent or a trademark, it all comes into the known to the public. So they would want to keep it secret, and all of you would be aware the most famous example is of the Coca-Cola formulation, which is kept as a trade secret. Geographical indications, it's basically the protection of any product which is specific to a particular climate, weather condition from a particular region, so that you would get geographical indication protection for that. For example, as we all know, in India we have Nagpur oranges, Solapuri chaddars, then Darjeeling tea, Assam tea. So the tea in Darjeeling will have a particular taste because of the conditions, weather conditions prevalent in Darjeeling. You would not be able to produce tea in some other state and sell it as Darjeeling tea. So that is what gives you geographical indication protection. Utility models is a simpler form of protection of patents, wherein there's not much of examination done, and it is just for a slight modification, and you get a protection for a shorter duration of time. So countries like China, Japan, they all go in also for utility model protection. The examination is faster, the grant is faster, and they can start practicing the inventions earlier than what a patent would get commercialized. Then you have industrial designs, which is for the ornamental designs, say of any necklace, bottle, it doesn't have any functional aspect, but you get protection for the design. So these are the different types of commonly known IPR which people protect, and there are a lot of examples in each of them. But what I will be focusing today is on patents. What is a patent? Some of you would already be knowing about it, but it is nothing but a grant, a right which is granted to any applicant or an inventor, so that nobody else can make, use, or sell that invention without prior permission. Also, it is restricted to the territory in which you seek protection, and the time duration for protection is limited. So it is generally granted by the government, the office in any government. It is given for a particular time and for that region only. If you say you have filed a patent in India, you cannot go and practice it in US saying you have filed a patent in India. You will have to simultaneously also file the same patent in US, and then you will be allowed to practice it there. But the basic, it's more of a negative right where somebody else cannot make use or sell that invention. And if you also want to practice it, you have to make sure that you're not infringing somebody else's patents. So if you have a patent granted, don't think that you can just, one person can just go and start selling it, or, making that technology and the product and start selling it. You have to make sure that we do not infringe somebody else's patents. And the basic advantage of giving a patent is the public disclosure. So whenever a patent application is filed, the detailed description of the invention has to be given in the patent application, and this gets published, which is available free of charge to everybody, and people can get access to the complete invention. And then you can practice it. I mean, you can try it on your own and maybe go in for further development, understanding what maybe some disadvantage that particular invention may have. Now, when I say that it has to be for to prevent any unauthorized use, it is basically making using, selling that invention. So manufacture, sale, or import. So even if we do not have a patent in India, we cannot sell that product in India, but we cannot also import it from some other country. We have to make sure that particular invention does not have any form of protection, and then we will be able to import it. Otherwise, we would be infringing somebody else's rights. The duration of a patent protection is 20 years from date of application. Now, this is standardized all over the world. Every country has the protection duration of 20 years from the date of application. But this will be valid, the patent will be valid only if the the granted patent is renewed every year. An annual maintenance fee has to be paid. Again, in each country, the fee may be different, we have to understand. But in most of the countries, you have to pay the annual maintenance fee. Only then your patent remains in force. If by chance somebody forgets or misses out paying the annual maintenance fee, the application is no longer, the granted patent is no longer in force. Some countries give you some grace time wherein you can pay an additional fee, like a fine sort of, and then you can again make your patent active. But that has to be done within that stipulated time period. However, for maintaining a patent, an annual maintenance fee has to be paid wherever you have got a granted patent. Yeah. So what is the requirement of patentability? In most of the countries, in fact, in all the countries, there is this substantive requirement which, when a patent application goes under examination. First of all, the most important part is that subject matter, what you are claiming, is patent eligible. Now, in every country, there are certain inventions which are not patentable as per their act or as per their law. Those applications will anyways get rejected. So the subject matter of your invention has to be patentable. So the three main important criteria for patentability is novelty, that the invention has to be new, not known earlier, should not be anticipated in any of the published articles, which is called as prior art. Second, it should have an inventive step. It should not be obvious to anybody who's skilled in the art. Now, suppose I'm working in a particular area and I say that A plus B is giving me C. But maybe who's an expert in that area will say, anyways, A plus B is going to give you C. You know, it is something which comes with your skill in that art. So if it should not be obvious, it has to be non-obvious. And that is called as an inventive step, where there is an intervention of the human being, of the intellectual capacity of the human being. And that will result in an invention which probably somebody else will not easily think of. And this also can be assessed by looking at the prior art documents. And again, the third important aspect is it should have an industrial application. There has to be some utility to the invention. Now, suppose I say that I have, got a new gene sequence, and if that's not going to give me any application, then I will not get a patent application. I cannot file a patent application, or if I file, it will get rejected. And the other procedural requirements when a patent application is being examined is that invention has to be enabled. Now, somebody who is saying that this is a particular invention, they should be able, it should be actually reduced to practice. You should be able to show that that invention really works. If that doesn't happen and you just show it theoretically, then that patent application can get rejected. Now, in most of the cases, the examiner will not obviously try each invention and see whether it's getting enabled. But from the description that you give in your patent application, the examples that you give for that particular invention, the examiner can make out. If the examiner feels that, you know, so he has a doubt probably in a part of your invention, he can get back to you and ask you for the data of your experimentation. So it's again very important that whenever an experimentation is done or your research work is being done, a lab notebook has to be maintained, which has to be giving an account of the entire invention, what steps you have followed, what reagents you have used, what are the parameters that you have considered. All that has to be always maintained in the lab notebook. And it is always advisable that as a researcher, you sign it, probably as a supervisor, your research student first signs it as the person who has worked on it, and then the supervisor counter signs it, and the date is always marked. Now, this is very important to show that you have worked on that invention. You have not copied it from anybody else, and it is your original work. Now, generally that would not be asked for during any patent examination. But if there is any case of, somebody is suing you for infringement, or somebody is suing you for saying that you have copied their work, then this lab notebook is a very good piece of evidence in the court where the case is filed. So always maintain that lab notebook with all the proper dates and signatures and all the steps or experimentation that you have done. So if any examiner also asks for that data, it is readily available. And the definiteness of the patent invention, which is, which you're going to put as a claim. Now, what happens is generally people want to go and file a patent application as broad as possible so that they get the maximum coverage of, protection. But not always that will work. Not always that will be useful for you, because sometimes the examiner would reject it and saying that it is very broad, or it is very it's not clear what your exact invention is. So your invention, how you put it out in the application, has to be very definite, very definitely telling you what the exact invention is about, and that should be somebody else should be able to reproduce as it is and get the same result what you have claimed if they want to try it at their end in their lab. Again, important here is whatever parameters or the conditions that you've used, the reagents, sometimes you can extrapolate that, knowing that suppose a particular invention works at 45 degrees Celsius, you can also, and it will work up to 60, you can write that up to 60. But when you're giving your examples, you should always give an example wherein you show that particular invention works at 60 degrees also, and you get a similar result as what you would get at 45 degrees. Because if you keep it only at one particular point, then the invention again becomes very narrow. Somebody else can try it at higher temperatures and they might get the, maybe a better result, and they can go and file a application on that. So the basic idea while filing a patent application is you should not allow somebody else to enter in that area, and you should be able to exactly give how your invention is going to work in the broadest range, and when it will work at best or at what optimum temperature. So this will give you a good coverage of your invention where nobody else can work on it. Because sometimes what happens is, especially in India, we give it very specific to what we feel, where we have got the result. But then some other companies, probably some other organizations abroad, they pick it up and then they claim the other, the area which is surrounding that your invention, and then you lose the monopoly of your invention. So it's very useful to not only draft the specification as a scientist or as a researcher on your own, but also take help from legal people like attorneys, patent agents, which they will help you to protect it and put it in the right language better. What happens most of the times when we write, like as a researcher, you write it very specifically on what you have done, like how you would put a record of the experiment, or probably how you would give it for a paper publication. But not always a patent document would you could write it in that fashion. It's always good to write it in that techno-legal language, and the best people to help you on that and get maximum protection and be legally correct is the patent agents or the attorneys who can help you draft your specification. Ideas and concepts cannot be patented in any country. They have to be reduced to practice. So if you have an idea, you think that that is going to give you a good result, a molecule which gives you probably better efficacy, it's going to treat a particular condition or a disease. But if you cannot show that it is actually treating it, you cannot go and file a patent application. Some people, what they do is, when they have an idea and they know the commercial potential of that particular invention, say it's a drug molecule, and you want to go, you feel that it will have very good effect against particular diseases, you start your experimentation, you start getting positive results, you can go and file in for a provisional application, which gives you another 12 months to file your complete specification. But the advantage here is you get your priority date. So if somebody else goes and files a patent application before you, then your provisional application will give you the priority date. So I'll tell you more in detail about provisional applications, priority applications, and complete specifications a little later. But every country, as I said, has their own rules on what is patentable, what is not patentable. Some things which are patentable in US may not be patentable in India. And the most simple example is a method of treatment in US, or a software patent. In US, it allows you to get a software patent. They give you method of treatment patents. But in India, you will not get that. It's not patentable. So when you say a method of treating, when you've got some molecule or some drug, and you say a method of treating this and this condition with the molecule, your patent will be outrightly rejected. So it's always good to word it differently, because you are not claiming the method of treatment, you're basically claiming the molecule or the formulation. So then that is where you should be able to draft correctly. So whenever any patent application has to be drafted, considering the legislation of the particular country that you would want to seek protection, it is very important to keep that in mind while drafting a specification. Now, many times what happens is, when people file a patent application in US, a method of treatment is allowed. So they say method of treatment, and they file in US, they get a patent. Same application they file in India, but it gets rejected because a method of treatment is not patentable in India. So when you're filing in India, you have to change the language and the claim so that it becomes patentable. But overall, in any country, something which is naturally present, the laws of nature, the mathematical equations, any something which is harmful to the society is not patentable. And in India, we have Section 3, which explicitly of our Patent Act, which explicitly mentions what is not patentable. Some examples is something which is very frivolous, or the claims which are contrary to natural laws is not patentable. Then inventions which are for commercial exploitation, but it is contrary to public order or morality, which can cause serious prejudice to human, animal, or plant life, health, or environment, is not patentable. Something which is injurious to public health is not patentable. The mere discovery of any scientific principle, or the formulation of an abstract theory, or discovery of anything which is living or non-living in nature, is not patentable. So now sometimes people say that, like for example, Newton's law of gravity is not patentable, but inventions which are based, so if you want to file a patent, it would be an invention which is based on the particular natural law, that you can go and file for a patent. But if you want to go and file the law as such, you will not get protection for something which is a natural law, something which is naturally present. So for example, microorganisms, if you just say that this particular organism is present in the soil, you have just isolated it, you will not get a patent application for that, a grant for that. What you would have to do is isolate that organism, work on it, modify it, let it have some benefit, and then you can go and file for a patent application. And a very famous case is the Anand Chakrabarti case, which he had genetically engineered the Pseudomonas species for treating oil spills. So it was not an organism which was naturally present. It had an human intervention. He had modified the gene, and because of which the organism could treat oil spills. And then because it was the very early case in the 1970, it got granted in 1980, but it had a lot of office action and a lot of cases which were filed in the court. However, for any organism or for any invention that has to be patentable, it has to not be present in nature naturally. It has to have some human intervention. In terms of pharmaceutical inventions, which is very important, is just a mere discovery of a new form of a substance which is known and which does not result in any enhanced efficacy. Such substances will not be patentable. Or the mere discovery of a new property or a new use of a known substance, or the mere use of a known process, machine, or apparatus is not patentable. So if you want to try to repurpose drugs, just a drug which is already known for treating condition A, and you realize it can also treat condition B, you will not get a patent in India, because a new use of a known substance is not patentable. If you have to make it patentable, then you have to modify it, work on it little bit, and probably increase the efficacy or the the yield and the effect that it gives, so that you can make it patentable. So it's very important, and this this particular section is very important in pharmaceutical inventions. Then another important aspect to be kept in mind is a substance which is just obtained by which is a mere admixture resulting in only aggregation of properties is also not patentable. So if you just say that a compound A treats has a particular effect, and compound B has a particular effect, and you just mix A and B and say that it gives this effect, the one which is already known for, that will not be patentable. Similarly, a mere arrangement or rearrangement or duplication of devices which would function independently is not patentable. So if you are you're making an arrangement of known devices, the function that they give or the function that they do should be different from what they were already known for. Only then you will be able to get a patent application. Any method of agriculture, horticulture is not patentable. Any process of medicinal, surgical, curative, prophylactic, diagnostic, or therapeutic processes are not allowed. So if a doctor wants to patent how he is doing a cataract operation, that will not be patentable. But if he is using he has a new instrument for doing that, or a doctor has a new tool, that can go in for a patent application for the application that it can be used for. But now how it can be used, so the method of treatment, or how a method of surgical processes or any diagnostic processes, that will not be patentable. So what people go for, they patent the diagnostic kits, but the method of diagnostic cannot be patentable. And in India, methods are not allowed to be patented at all. In US, they still allow methods patents. Any mathematical or business method or a computer program or an algorithm is not patentable. So if somebody has a new computer program, they can go in and file for a copyright protection, but they will not get an patent protection in India. Okay. So this is basically on what is not patentable again, and also any methods, any inventions related to atomic energy, defense related, are not allowed to be patentable in India. If you have to do it, then you have to follow a different process. You have to go and get specific permissions from the patent office, and then probably some of that, like for example in defense related, that has to be done. Otherwise you will not get any patent protection in India. So who can file a patent? Any person who is the true and first inventor of the invention can be a person who can go and file a patent application, but it has to be his own invention. He has to have worked on it. His intellectual capacity has to go into it. Now, sometimes some people just do what has been instructed to them. They are not true inventors. A person who developed that invention, who got that idea, who decided on how to do it, that person can then go and file a patent application. intellectual inputs are very important to decide who the inventor is for an invention. Any person who is the assignee of the person who is claiming the true or first inventor can also go and file the application. So for example, any organization, company can also go and make an application, but they are not the inventors. The name of the organization will be the applicant, and the inventor names will be the people who actually worked on it. Now, in most of the cases, when you are employed in an organization, every company has their own rules or their contract agreement with their employees. So in most of the cases, any intellectual property which is developed in an organization because of the facilities that you're using in that organization, because of the infrastructure that the organization is providing to you, you could develop that invention. Then the applicant becomes the owner of the patent. That is the organization who has employed you, and you become the inventor, and you will not have rights over the invention. It's basically the applicant who has the rights over the invention. Now suppose I am working in an organization and I say, no, it is my idea, I have developed it, and I will go and file the application and I will be the patent owner. It is not right, because I have some bound agreement with my organization, and that organization clearly mentions that any intellectual property developed will be our ownership, because they are providing you with all the infrastructure and the facilities. Now sometimes there are joint inventions, between two organizations. It could be between two academic universities, it could be between an academic university and a company, it can be between two companies. Now whenever such a joint agreement is done, before starting the research work, the terms of intellectual property generation should always be clearly mentioned. So when we decide who's going to do which part of the invention, say sometimes it is the company A will do a particular part and company B will do something, or the university will do something, and then they will share the results. The terms of IP generation and sharing should always be mentioned in the contractual agreement. Most of the times it is the funding organization also who claims ownership on the IP, because they are providing the funds for the invention. So all that has to be very clearly mentioned before filing a patent application, because once when you're filing a patent application, you need the consent of each and every inventor who has worked on that invention, and you cannot miss out or exclude some inventor saying that we don't want to include their names. Then again your patent application can get rejected if the other inventor goes and files a case against you. Any legal representative of a deceased person who immediately before his death was entitled to make such an application, then that person can also go and file a patent application. Any patent application can be filed either alone or jointly with any other person. So as I said, there can be collaboration between two organizations, there can be collaboration between two people. Inventors also, you can have multiple inventors in any invention. There is no restriction on number of inventors, there is no restriction on number of applicants. That is the organization who will be the patent owner. All this is done, but it always has to be done with consent of each and every person involved in that particular development. So when you're filing a patent application, what should your application contain, which is compulsory in all the countries where you go and file an application? The order is different in different countries, but what I've just tried to mention what it should actually contain. It should have a title, a very brief title, which very explicitly mentions what your invention is about. An abstract which gives you a small gist of your invention, what you are going to actually go and claim. Then the claims, which are the most important part of your invention. Now, whenever a patent application is filed, what you get protection is what you have given in your claims. Only what you claim you will get protection. And then you have the full description, which you have to mention what the field of the invention is, what was the background, any disadvantages of the prior art that you have tried to overcome, what has been the focus of your invention, a small summary of your claims, then the description of any drawings or figures. The drawings or figures also have to be given separately. The description of those drawings have to be given. Then description of the invention. Now it is said that any patent researcher or a person who's drafting a patent application is a lexicographer of his own. He can write the invention, what he has considered in the invention, and write. Sometimes it can, the meaning of that word you have used could be different, but then that has to be very clearly mentioned in the full description. So when I say I have used a gene, what I have meant by using the word gene, I need to put it. If you do not describe that, then the examiner will use what is given in the dictionary as a meaning of a particular word. But if you have used it differently, you should be able to describe it or explain it in the full description, and that is considered valid when you are filing a patent application. Any examples? It's always good to give illustrative examples because that shows how your invention has worked. What are the reports you have got? The examiner can make out that the invention is enabled, and when an invention is enabled, it is a good application or a good invention, which, as I said sometime back, when you're giving a range, say, of temperatures, you should give examples of the starting range, the last, the ending range, and the optimum time or the optimum temperature. That tells you that the invention works in that range, and the examiner cannot, reject it, saying that it is not going to work or it's not feasible at a particular temperature, or somebody else should not be able to, file an opposition against your description. So examples are very important. Some people file applications without examples, but then that's not a very good draft. It always should have those examples. Any specific embodiments that, when you have used a specific, say it's a plant extract that you're using, then you say that any of these plant extracts can be used, but are there any specific ones which will give you an optimum result? If you can mention that, that is also very useful in the complete specification. And as I said, drawings and diagrams. Now, whenever we are giving claims in the application, all those claims should be supported by the complete specification describing each claim, which then tells you that the invention is really working, and there will be no chances of rejection. That, like, sometimes what happens is people claim say 2-3 extracts, but they don't mention it in the description at all. Then it becomes doubtful whether the invention actually works for those parts which you have not described. Sometimes people do not put it in the claims, but they go and write it in the full description thinking they will get protection, but they will not get protection for what is given in the description. Only you get protection of only what you have given in the claims. So whenever we are drafting the claims, we have to cover the invention entirely and then give it in the describe it in the written description. Now, what happens in cases where people write it in the description? Say, for example, I have a formulation which treats, say, 10 conditions, and now you have mentioned only 5 in the claims, and the remaining 5 you mention in the description. You will not get protection for those conditions which you have not claimed. The claims have to be very specific, very clear, very concise, and it should cover your invention completely for what you're giving a written description. So that's basically what the contents of a patent specification is. Now, what are the steps involved in filing a patent? Now, most of the cases, what happens is people know what the steps are, but they forget the timeline that is involved in patent filing. Sometimes you forget filing the requests, the fees, and that becomes very difficult to process your application. It's also important that when you're filing a patent application, as I said earlier, and I'm reiterating it again, that you understand the legislation in the countries where you want to file. Yeah, it's always useful to know what the law is prevalent, and accordingly you file your specification and take note of your processing of your application. Now, say you have an invention, it is novel, it's not obvious because you have done a patentability search earlier, and you want to go ahead for filing your application. Your management also allows you to go and file your patent application. So what you can do is you can go and file your patent application at the nearest patent office. Now, in India, we have 4 patent offices at all the 4 metro cities: Delhi, Chennai, Kolkata, and Mumbai. So they have given, which states would go and file under which. So the western region, you would go and file at the Mumbai patent office. If you are working in the northern region, you will go and file at the Delhi patent office. Now, when you go and file a patent application, your date gets recorded, and you get an application number. Now that is the date when your patent has been filed. So say for example, you have filed your patent application on 1st of February 2021, and that is your first application. So your 1st February 2021 becomes your filing date. And why this date is important? Because your term of your patent will be calculated from this particular date. Initially, before 1995 June, they were giving a patent for 17 years from date of grant. But now from June 1995, they have changed it world over, and it is 20 years from date of filing, and that is the first filing. Now say for example, I have filed a patent application at the Mumbai Patent Office on 1st February 2021. Then I realized that I know that my patent has good market value in Japan, China, and US. So I have a liberty of 12 months from 1st Feb 2021 to file a patent application in other countries, which could be, like as I said, China, Japan, US, where I'm interested to go and seek protection. So within 12 months, I'll go and file in those countries where I'm interested, but I will give a priority date, or I will give the reference of my Indian application, which was filed on 1st February 2021. So when when I file, the date of filing in China is considered, or the date of filing in US is considered, or Europe, or any other country, that would be the date of filing in that country. But because my first filing was done in India, my first filing date in India is my priority date. Now, what is the advantage of having this priority date and claiming it in the other countries? When the examiner in the other countries is processing your invention there and is examining your invention, if they come in hand with this Indian application, it will not work against you as prior art, because it has been filed before your application in the other country, right? So what happens is your first application or your priority application is not considered to kill your novelty, and therefore it is always important to give the priority application details wherever you made the first application. Now it could be a company which is working in US, they have filed the first application in US. Probably when they file in India, they can give the priority date and the priority number of the application filed in US first. So it's very important to maintain the novelty with you and not allow your own applications to stand against you as prior art, so that the novelty of the invention still remains with you. And this 12 months time is governed by the Paris Convention, which it allows you to file within 12 months in any country which is a party to Paris Convention, where most of the countries are a party to the Paris Convention. And each application in all countries will be treated equally as they would treat their own national application. So if I file a patent in US, the US government cannot just reject, the US Patent Office cannot reject my application just because I am from India and I have made a filing in US as a foreign national. So all applications have to be treated equally, irrespective of the country of origin. But that 12 months time period is important. Now, if you file after 12 months, then your first application will, your first application will stand against you as prior art. So always keep in mind that 12 months time period. Or you can go for a PCT application, which is a patent cooperative treaty application, which is a single application for multiple countries. And that allows you, once you filed a PCT application, you can then, it gives you a time period of 30 months to go to the national phase, which then you can decide which countries you want to go ahead with prosecuting your patent application. Now, when you're filing an application, you can file as a provisional or a complete. When I say provisional, it means that your invention is not complete. You still do not have all the results, but your subject matter of your invention is defined and it is fixed. You just have to file an application and need not have any claims, but you will get priority for that date which you have filed the provisional. And within 12 months, then you have to file a complete specification. So sometimes when you know your idea or your invention has good potential in terms of commercialization, go and file a provisional. Then within 12 months, complete your invention and file a complete specification. So your priority will be your provisional application date, and your filing date will be your date of filing the complete specification. But the priority date will give you the advantage of being the first to file in that particular area. In most of the countries, once your patent application has been filed, within 18 months, it gets published. And it comes in the free domain for everybody to read it and access it. They cannot practice it, but they can at least read it and get insights from it. In some countries, they give you the possibility of early publication, but then that comes with a fee, additional fee. So you pay that additional fee, file the request for the early publication, and go and get your patent published within say 9 months or 12 months, and not wait up to 18 months. Then you have to file a request for examination in India. From the date of filing, you have 48 months, that is 4 years. So suppose I have filed my application on 1st of February 2021, I have 4 years to file the and I'm not in any hurry, so my patent application gets published within 18 months, and then I can go in for filing a request of examination. Only after I file the request of examination, only then my patent application will be examined. So many a times people file the request of examination along with the patent application filing, because anyways you want to get it examined. So you go and file that request of examination. When the examiner at the patent office takes it up for examination, then they start sending you, say, probably the questions that they have, the queries, the rejections, or whatever decisions that they have. You have around 6 months, and which is called as the first examination report. Once you get the first examination report, you have 6 months to reply to those queries if there are any. Some applications are filed so brilliantly that they have no examination report, and it gets granted because of the way they have written or the invention that they have given. But if you get an examination report, then you have to respond to it within 6 months from the date of issuance, and at the most, with paying little bit more of fee, you can extend it up to 3 months. But you have to follow the timeline. If you do not respond to them in that stipulated timeline, then your application gets rejected. Once you give your response, if the examiner finds it's okay, or if he finds he needs more answers, the communication happens. And this entire process is called as the office action involved in the patent application. And once the examiner is satisfied, he gives his decision. It's either a grant or a rejection. If your if your application is rejected, then it is in the public domain. Anybody will be able to use it or make it. But if it is granted, then you will have the rights to your invention. You continue the patent application, the granted patent, by paying the annual maintenance fee from the 3rd year, because generally the application fee will cover the first 2 years. So then you will get to maintain that patent once you start paying the annual maintenance fee. So this is broadly the overall process. There are different forms, for each part for filing the rights of inventors. I mean, the names of inventors, there's a form, the form for filing the complete, filing the request for examination, for early publication, any other change in assignee, because suppose sometimes a patent is bought by somebody else, then the applicant has to change name. So all those have different forms. That is a very, very specific thing, and I'm not going into those details right now. Then there can be opposition to your application also. And in India, they allow pre-grant opposition, that is before the patent has been granted, but you can file it for only within 6 months from the date of publication. After that, you're not allowed to file a pre-grant opposition. The pre-grant opposition is free. And the post-grant opposition, that is after a patent is granted, you have 12 months from date of grant to give any post-grant opposition. So sometimes people, why would somebody go for opposing a particular patent? Because it may be coming in between their commercialization or the product that they are developing. So in such cases, they will go to and try to invalidate a patent, saying that there is either prior art, or the person has used that invention earlier, or it has been wrongfully obtained, or it does not contain patentable subject matter. Most of the times they would give it in terms of any prior art which is prevalent before the date of filing the patent application. So if you want to file a post grant opposition, then it has to be any art that you are trying to cite should be published before the patent application was filed. So this is also one possibility where people try to invalidate patents so that their commercialization is smooth and they are not worried about infringing somebody else's patents. So what is the advantage of these patent documents? When you are looking at all those patents, what it gives you the complete details of how the invention works. So it's like free knowledge which you can take up. Patents are most of the times a very unique source of information which you would not probably get in any of the papers or any published art. It is sometimes the earliest publication of an invention, because nowadays people prefer that they go file a patent application, and if they're interested they will go for a paper publication. They can file a patent application before it's even granted. You can go for a paper publication, but not always people would file and then go for publication. Sometimes they'll just file a patent application. So it's sometimes only a publication of any research work or any inventions. It's easily accessible, it's all freely available to anyone. All you need is just a computer and internet connection, and you will get the full text of patent documents from any country, whether it's Korea, Japan, China, US, Europe, France. You would get the full text of those patents free of charge, and it's easily accessible, freely available, and it is the biggest gold mine of information. So what is the kind of information you get from a patent document? You get technical information, which is the complete description of the invention, the technology that has been disclosed, the drawings. If it's a genetic invention related to genetic engineering, you will get the gene sequence, you will know where it is deposited. If it is a microorganism, you know that the culture is deposited in the depository authority, so you can get access to the culture by paying a price and work on it. You get legal information based on what is allowed for protection. So what are the patent claims which define the scope of the patent, as well as the legal status. Now, suppose you realize that one particular patent is very important for your invention to work, and if you want to commercialize it, you need the right, the permission from the patent owner. But when you go to see the legal status, you realize that the patent is abandoned for non-payment of maintenance fee. You can use it freely. You don't have to worry about infringement. So patents which are in public domain, that are either, expired, or that have patents which are no longer valid, or which have been abandoned, or they have not been continued by paying maintenance fee, that's all freely available for you to use. And you also get business relevant information, that is, who is the inventor, who is the company working in that area, is it going to be a threat for your company, then date of filing, when it has been filed, in which countries it has been filed. A lot of times people keep track of the inventors who are of particular technological area. Now what happens in most of the academic institutions, the university systems, you make patent applications, you get it granted, but you cannot practice it because you are not a commercial manufacturer, but you have the entire skill set for that particular invention. So companies hire such professors as consultants, which will give train their staff, and then they can work in that particular area. So keeping a track of inventors is also a very important aspect from looking at the patent data. So it can be used for research and development, it is used in prototyping, for product development, licensing of your inventions. So suppose now you all are all from the academic setting and you file a patent application, you should be able to identify who the potential licensors are by looking at earlier patent data which is related to your technology. And then if you realize a particular country is, would be interested in your technology which you have filed a patent and got a patent, you can approach them and get a, sell your patent to them, or you can license your patent to them, because you're probably not going to manufacture the invention. Because in Indian Patent Act, it is also mentioned that if a patent application or a granted patent is not worked after 3 years, then it becomes no more valid. It is for people to use freely. Every invention or every patent has to be worked upon, and they will check after 3 years that people are using. So either you license it, or you sell it, or you allow others to manufacture it, but the patent has to be worked upon. It is useful when you want to import or export products, assess any risk of infringement, which is very important in commercialization. And you obviously want to avoid useless investments. You know, when now you are having a research my area and you start working on it without looking at the patent data, and you realize that there are already patents in it, nobody is going to get your research work because they will not be able to practice your invention freely. You don't want to do some repetitive work. You want to avoid wasting time and money in duplication of any work. You want to look for technology which is available for licensing or in the public domain because it's not patented or the protection has expired. Now most of the companies keep track of the patents in their area, who is working in it, whether the patent is valid, which countries it has been filed for, so that they can accordingly decide on their patent strategy. As I said, very important to avoid infringement and also keep a track of competition in the market or the emerging trends. When you look at patent data, you can also make out which companies are likely to come with products in the market. So that also becomes a very useful information. And analyzing all this information is a science where you can develop relationships, trends, and that is called as patent informatics or pat informatics. And it's very useful to represent data in a manner in which people can understand that complex information and get simpler insights from it, which will help them in their research work. And it is why it is important, because you can identify the patents which are important. Now suppose you being a professor have some very good patents granted, and people are looking at that data and they realize that your patent has been cited a number of times by others. They will be able to know that it is technically very strong. Sometimes it may be very economically strong too. So people will then come to approach you, and then they will start asking whether you can license your patent to them, or whether you can sell your patent to them. You understand what the patenting activity is. Now, as a professor, if you want to write a research proposal, you need to know what is the patent activity in that area. If there are already a lot of patents and you cannot find the research gap, it's best not to work in that area and look for some other novel ideas where there isn't much patent activity. Companies or organizations, they design their technology strategy based on that. They keep a track of them, they keep monitoring their competitors, and that's called as competitive intelligence, which they do with patent data. And also you can check the geographical coverage. So when you're looking at patents, you have to search for them, you have to analyze them. You can have a very quantitative analysis by the structured fields of assignees, inventors, so what is the legal status, the dates, or unstructured or the qualitative analysis, wherein you have to analyze the claims of the patents and understand the metes and bounds of the claims, the scope of protection before you go and file your patent application. Just to quickly tell you on the process flow, like you first have your keywords designed. Now as a professor, you can also do these searches on your own. All the databases are also available freely. Identify your key terms, run a search, review those patents, and check those patents which are important for you, so that you can design your research proposal accordingly. So you devise a good search string, run a good search, get your patents, use those patents to design your research work, to design your IP strategy, and accordingly go. I'm sure the result will be better than what you would do without looking at the patent data or only the published literature. Now, each of these databases, I mean, there are a lot of databases. There are paid, there are free databases. But as a researcher, you can look at the free databases. Every national patent office has their own free database. You have to just go to those patent offices websites and go to their search their databases, and you will get access to all the patents which are from that particular country. So like US patent office has their own database, European patent office, Indian patent office, Korean patent office, all of them have their own database. So you can run those searches and get an idea. So basically, it's very important to understand the legislation of which is prevalent in each country before you file your patent application, how you want to process it. Most of the times you would even if you're filing it in India as an individual, if you want to file abroad, you would need support from the attorneys present in those countries, and that's where the cost actually comes up. Keep in mind the costs which are involved in filing patent application. For example, filing a patent application in India, if you have a specific fee, and if you and that is the fee for 30 pages of your description and 10 claims. But if you have additional claims, like you want to file a patent application with 20 claims, then those 10 additional claims will have a fee per claim. Each additional page beyond 30 will have a cost per page. Now all this needs to be considered when you are filing a patent application, the fee prevalent in those countries. So you will have to prepare a budget accordingly, and that is important, because that is going to tell you how, when you start your project work and when you receive your project funding, you need to consider all these aspects and then proceed with your work and filing your patent application. It is always advisable to do a patentability search. Make sure that your invention is patent eligible. It satisfies the criteria of novelty, non-obviousness, or inventive step and industrial application. It is not something which is not patentable in a particular country and then go ahead. As I mentioned, you can always take help from patent analysts for assessing your invention, getting a prior art search done, then from patent agents for drafting your specification, or attorneys. And also if you have to file sue someone or you get sued, then those you would need the help of legal attorneys. Always refer to patent information which is content rich before you start your research work, where in the process of your research work and after you complete it and you want to file your patent application, always support it with published literature, which is scientific papers which are published, any publications in any form, product manuals, Google articles, anything can be considered as prior art. So all that has to be considered before you file your proposal or your patent application. It's observed that this search and analysis of IP is always useful to decide your research strategy, and it will obviously support your innovation management, because you want unique inventions, you want your inventions to be commercially successful, and for that a prior art study or a key insight from patents are very useful. So patent mapping, its intelligence you get from it has various applications, wherein basically you are avoiding the risk of infringement, you are having better products developed, you have better processes developed for better product efficacy. You can identify opportunities for not only your research work but for licensing as well, which will be very useful for your business, innovation, and funding decisions. Nowadays, most of the funding organizations, they also get a patent search done before they fund any research work, because they want to make sure that it's not going to be repetitive, and you can gain access, or you can gain better returns from the invention or the investment that you've put in that research work. So this is just a very quick overview of patent filing as well as importance. I would like to thank you all for your patient hearing, and I have left some time probably for any question answers that or any suggestions from the participants. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. So now the question answer session is open to all. Just drop your question in chat box. Ma'am, we have a one question from Dr. Vandana Patravale, ma'am. She was asking, I have an Indian patent filed with industry, but they have missed 12 months period of filing PCT or international patent. Is there any way it can still be done, or will add on patent help?
So basically they would have to file it within 12 months, which now you have only an Indian application, is it?
Yeah, that's correct.
Right. So actually it is difficult then because it crosses the 12-month period for getting your international application. So, sometimes what people do is they modify their invention slightly, the basic invention, but you design around it and then you make a separate filing. You can claim the priority of your Indian application for the basic invention, but you will get a new priority for the slight modification that has been done.
So there is a way out.
Any
Yeah.
idea?
Thank you.
Yeah, you actually there are a lot of ways you can manage, but then designing around becomes very important.
Can imagine. I think industry should be able to do it. Of course, writing part we have to do, preliminary draft we'll have to do, but
Yeah.
they should be able to manage with help of attorneys.
Yes, they should be able to. But you can claim the priority of your initial invention, the basic invention that you have, and you can claim, get priority for the modification. So the basic protection remains with you. If somebody else has to practice your modification, they cannot do it without your earlier invention. So the rights will remain with you.
Thank you. Excellent talk, and all the basics are clear.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, ma'am. We have another question.
Yeah.
How to check the novelty of hit compounds?
How to check the novelty of
Hit compound.
Basically, there are a lot of databases which will allow you to search with the structure, and you would have to go with that. Then there are databases which allow you to search with Marcus structures, wherein there can be changes where they list out all the possible combinations. So those searches have to be done. WIPO, which has a database, that is the World Intellectual Property Organization, they have a database called Patent Scope. Now, if you register there for freely, they allow you to do a structure search as well. You always would not require a subscribed database for that. But then when you do a structure search, you come to know all the prior art which claim that structure, and then you can assess it and decide whether you want to, go ahead, whether it's novel or no.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Then another question is, when should an application for a patent be filed?
When your invention is ready, when you have the result with you. If you have a basic idea that it will work, then go for a provisional, but a complete specification can be done only when you have your results and you are sure that it works for that result.
Okay.
So how fast you do your invention, how fast you get your results is all up to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Hello, am I audible, ma'am?
Yes, sir.
Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, I have to ask a question that is regarding
I
the
think there are multiple people.
no, I think if I'm not audible, I can write the question if it is a problem. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, ma'am, myself Dr. Ashwini Mishra, and I'm from Bhopal, Madhya Pradesh.
There is some background noise from your place.
Okay, ma'am.
Yeah.
Ma'am, is it okay now?
Yeah, better.
Yes, it is okay. You can ask, sir.
Ma'am, we have applied for the patent, and we applied for the name of the university, not by the name of the inventor who invented it. So will the university will get benefit of it, because we have not paid any fees for the patenting, because it was by the name of government university. So we got a facility that if you apply by the name of government university, you don't have to pay anything for patenting. Is this the correct thing?
No. Your university will have to pay for the application fee.
So even if I apply by my own name for patenting, in that case also university will pay the fees of the process.
See, no, actually there are two parts to it. Are you filing on behalf as an employee of the university? Then the rights will remain with the university depending on the contract that you have with your university. if you're filing as an individual inventor where you have not worked on the invention in the university at all, you have a different setup and you have not involved at all with the university, then that you can file as an individual person. But
Okay.
if it is because of your university infrastructure, facilities, your research work there, then you cannot be the applicant for it. You will be the
Okay,
individual.
and there is one more question, ma'am. Nowadays in NEC accreditation, there is a question that normally arises by the committee member that whether your patent has got commercialized or not.
Right.
At what time we have to apply for the commercialization of the patent?
See, there actually, once you have your invention ready, start looking for people who will buy your invention. File a patent application. If you find potential licensors or person to buy it, you can tell them that the application has been filed. Once it's granted, we will take it further. Some companies or organizations, they say even if it's filed, it is enough. We give it to us and we will process it further for our grant. You know, it depends on how your contract is. But once it's granted, then you can give a license to them, because even they will not take it until, you know, they are sure that the patent gets granted.
Actually, ma'am, the problem we are facing that we are getting calls from the companies that they are like insisting us to commercialize the product, but we haven't still received. There is a time for receiving of the patent. So that is the question. Like I shouldn't allow them. Yeah, that is it. Yeah.
No, that's okay. You can tell them you have filed a patent. You can start your negotiation with them, and you can tell them it's likely to be granted in a couple of years. So let them also take a call whether they want to go further. But don't wait for it to be granted. Then you will start looking for people. Then the commercialization. Then you have lost already some time.
Okay.
So once you file an application, you should start looking out for. But you have to be clear to them that it is in the application stage. It's not yet granted. No.
Okay, and I shouldn't share the formula and everything with them unless it will not be granted, right?
No, nothing like that. Because what happens once you have filed your application, the rights are with you.
Okay.
They cannot misuse it without your permission unless you have allowed them to. And in any ways, whether it's not granted, within 18 months, it comes to the public domain. The whole world can see your formulation.
Okay.
So within 18 months, your application gets published, which is available to the entire world. Everyone can access it. So once you file an application, don't worry about that. Okay, but don't share with them something beyond what your application has been about. You know, what you want to keep confidentially.
Okay.
Only what you file, you share with them.
Okay. Thank you very much for your information. It was a really nice session. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
We have another question that is from Harsha.
Yes.
Can you suggest any other data for structure novelty?
If they have access to SciFinder, that is a very good database for structure searching. SciFinder is excellent for, you know, chemical related and pharmaceutical product related searches. Then on PatBase also, that's another subscribed database which allows you to search for. So freely, I think it's only patent scope which allows you to search, but Google Patents and all will give you the structures, you know, of all the, like the other free databases like Google Patents or European Patent Office database. They will give you the structure, but then you will have to assess it and check it on your own by searching with the product name or the chemical name, and then you will have to assess it. But if you have access to SciFinder, then I think that is a very useful database.
Thank you, ma'am, for giving such an informative session. I would like to summarize the session that is on topic patent filing procedures and important research. Ma'am has covered the basics of IPR, then what is Section 3 in India, then who can file the patent, content involved in patent, steps in patent filing applications, then what is information, what information we can get from the patent. Then she also has explained the patent informatics. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much. Ma'am, kindly accept our virtual bouquet on behalf of convener Dr. P.D. Chaudhary, Principal, PES Modern College of Pharmacy, Nigri, Pune, and STTP Coordinator, Dr. Atul Phatak, Professor and Head of Department of Pharmaceutics, PES, Modern College of Pharmacy, Nigri, as a token of appreciation and virtual certificate. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think this is a very kind gesture in the online world today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, madam. Thanks for your wonderful session. Thank you.
Yes. And if anybody has any doubts, Dr. Atul Phatak has my email ID. Please, anybody can please feel free to send me an email. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Yes, definitely, madam. We'll share.